Hi there, how are you? Let me ask you something. When I ask you about promotion, what is the first thing that comes into your mind? Is it a bigger title? Is it managing people or maybe becoming a team leader? Many people automatically connect promotion with management. But what if I told you that this assumption is one of the most common and costly mistakes I have seen in my career? Today in this episode, we are going to talk about progression, promotion, and what are the two different paths that you can take, and why choosing the incorrect one can set you back years in your career. Hi everyone, my name is Daniel Junowitz and welcome once again to the Bullseye ProPath method channel, a roadmap for employees that want to progress and make smarter career decisions. If this is your first time to my channel, then I recommend you to watch my first video where I explain about my methodology and how we are going to be approaching this entire channel and series of videos. In previous episode, we spoke about branding, learning, skill mapping, and accountability. I highly recommend you to watch them before you watch this one. In this episode, we are going to speak about another very critical circle of the Bullseye ProPath, which is your next role, and more specifically, how to choose the right promotion path. This is highly important. Let's have a look. Let's talk today about how promotions really work. Guys, today organizations and companies have very complex structures. They have teams inside teams, organization, different decisions criteria, so on and so forth. And these companies are constantly evolving and progressing. A company, let's say a small startup today with 20 people, will make decisions in a very different way than, let's say, two years from now, when maybe there will be 100 or 150 employees. So let's say in those smaller companies, many times promotions are more fluid, sometimes even chaotic, not necessarily backed up by a very kind of organized structures. But then again, in many large organizations, promotions are very, very organized, or could be very, very organized. It's very important to understand that many times promotions are simply semantic. Let's say someone that is a salesperson, an account executive, and will get a promotion to a senior account executive. That doesn't necessarily mean that he will have more responsibility, but it's rather more like a recognition, etc., etc. The problem begins first when someone thinks that the only way for him or for her to progress is by becoming a manager. And this is one very common mistake that I have seen. And here is the big assumption I want to challenge. Obviously, as human beings, we want to progress, we want more responsibility, recognition, growth. And obviously, for some reason, many people think that management is the ultimate step forward. More money, more influence, more prestige, right? But here is the truth, and I want you to really hear this clearly. The fact that you are an amazing individual contributor does not necessarily make you a great manager. I'm going to pause and I want to repeat this again. The fact that you are an amazing individual performer doesn't mean that you will be necessarily a great manager. And this is something very important, and many people that want to progress do not necessarily take into account or do not think ahead. So let me give you an example. Let's meet Joe. Joe is an account executive, a seller, and he's an amazing performer. Quarter after quarter, he achieves his sales targets, and eventually Joe wants to get promoted. So Joe, throughout discussions with his managers, wants to become a team leader, a sales team leader. Amazing for Joe, he got the job. And now Joe is a team leader. But now the thing is that Joe is not selling any longer. Now he needs to take care of his team. So he used to be an amazing sales leader, but now those skills need to be taken into a different, angle, into a different scope, because now he needs to coach his team. And then Joe realizes that this is a very, very different role. This requires a very different set of skills. And Joe starts working with his team, but let's put it that way. His team are not as good as he was as an individual contributor. So after, let's say, 2 quarters that the team is not hitting quota, Joe is becoming more frustrated, okay? And then he's becoming more grumpy, and, conversations with his team are becoming more tense. eventually, at some point, his team doesn't see Joe as a great leader, as a great manager. And eventually, Joe also becomes very frustrated, and eventually you can understand that this situation is not working out. Management eventually decides to remove Joe from that position. So this is something I have seen a lot in my career. All sort of jumps, all sort of kind of progressions from an individual contributor role into a manager. And I want to tell you something. I call that jump, the shift from an individual contributor to management, the cliff. Do you remember? The cliff. Let me elaborate a little bit more about what the cliff is. Moving from an individual contributor role to a managerial one is not a step. It's a cliff. Suddenly, your success depends on communication, empathy, emotional intelligence, coaching, problem resolution or conflict resolution, planning, etc., etc. And now the question is whether when you wanted to get the promotion, if you had these skills required to be prepared. So if you don't prepare for this in advance, then this fall can be quite painful. So here's the question you must ask yourself. The question is, do I want to manage people or do I want to become an expert? And there's no better answer, only a more honest one. And this is very important. Do I want to become an expert? Do I want to manage people? And if I want to manage people, whether I have the right skills to do it? And obviously it's very important to watch my previous episode about the skill mapping system. Now I want to spend a few minutes talking about the individual contributor path. Let's be very clear about this, all right? You can absolutely grow, get promoted, earn more, and gain influence without necessarily becoming a manager. The individual contributor path means that you have much more expertise. You're becoming a subject matter expert on a certain topic. People will come to you for advice. You will still retain a high degree of autonomy and eventually high value for you, for the company, and for your contribution. And most importantly, no management of people. And here's something that I want to be very clear. Today, you may choose to remain as an individual contributor or as a manager, but I have seen throughout my career people shift and go back between one to the other. For example, I have seen people managing teams for many, many years, and then they have made the decisions to go back into an individual contributor role because they wanted to have a higher degree of autonomy, become more of an expert, and not necessarily rely entirely on their team. So the fact that today you are an individual contributor or you are an expert doesn't mean that in the future you cannot be a management, or vice versa. But the question that you need to ask yourself is, A, what is the best decision for you, for your career at the moment? If you want to retain a high degree of autonomy, then pursuing the individual contributor path may be an amazing decision for you. If you just had children, or if you want to spend more time with your family, then this will allow you probably to do so. Or if you want to become a manager, which is an amazing decision as well, you only need to ask yourself whether you have the skills to perform that position, especially if you just were serving and performing the role of an individual contributor. So once again, talking about the skills that you need to have in order to progress in your career, it's very important to ask yourself whether you have them. I remember many times as a manager, a lot of my employees used to come to my office and tell me, Danny, I want to become a manager. And I asked them why, because I see this as my next step in my career. And when I was looking at the calendar, I was saying, in your case, you just joined the company 8-9 months ago. So why you think that in such a short amount of time you deserve that progression? And B, the biggest question that I was asking myself is whether they ask themselves if they have the skills to get that promotion. So a lot of young people today are very eager to get that promotion. They want to progress fast. They don't necessarily understand the dynamics, the timelines of the organization. So they enter, they believe that, okay, I have done my position 10 months in the best possible way. Now it's the time for me to get that management position. Once again, probably going too fast. B, organizations have a different timeline, etc., etc. Let me tell you a story. We met Joe before, now let's meet Rebecca. Rebecca wanted to get that promotion in a, let's say, mid-size or big-size organization. And obviously, those organizations have longer cycles and they have their organic kind of way of doing things. Sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, very organized structure. So Rebecca was doing an amazing job and she wanted to get that promotion, and the organization is an amazing organization. But eventually, the times were not as she wanted them to be. So Rebecca got tempted and she went to work for a very small startup, but then again, she got the title that she thought she deserved, right? So she left an amazing organization and she went to work for a new startup with an amazing idea, but yet again, just walking its first steps, right? So Rebecca was doing her job. She understood at some point that she was lacking a lot of knowledge, and also her manager saw it. But then this is a real story. That startup eventually did not work out and they had to shut down, let's say 1 year into Rebecca's kind of joining that company. What I want to say is that you do not need to rush, all right? I know that we want to get that promotion, we want to grow, but once again, if you are in the right place, in a place where you can learn from your managers, you can learn from the organization. So be patient, make sure that you are becoming the best in what you do. Make sure that you're preparing yourself for the next day, that you're acquiring the skills necessary in order to perform your next job. Do not rush, do not get tempted by titles when you may get the title, not necessarily you have the skills, etc., etc., etc. This is a very, very important point that I want you to take into account. So in the case of Rebecca, what she was missing is that promotions eventually are not decided by the employee, but rather by the company. The company is the one that is going to decide when to promote you, when is the right time, and not necessarily the individual contributor, right? And this is extremely important to understand. If you think that this is fully up to you, then you do not necessarily understand the rules of the game, that managers, your manager and your manager are the ones that are going to decide on your promotion, not you. And this is something that sometimes is a little bit hard, especially for younger generations, but this is a reality check. But then, let's say that you have done everything correctly. You have prepared for your next role. You keep learning. You keep becoming better. Your results are amazing. And then, yet again, you're not getting your promotion. Yes, maybe this is an opportunity for you to seek elsewhere. Maybe you can move internally to another team within your organization, or maybe an organization doesn't have, let's say, the position for you to fulfill, and maybe eventually management positions are much fewer and much fewer than eventual individual contributors. So if you have done all your homework, if you feel that you're truly prepared and your company is not giving you the opportunity within reasonable timelines that I just spoke about, then maybe this is the time for you to look elsewhere and to get the next promotion by just shifting and switching to a different organization. Great. So let's do a quick summary here. When thinking about your next career promotion and step, remember this. There are two valid paths that you can take. One is the managerial route and the other one is the individual contributor. Neither is superior. Only one is right for you at that specific moment. And you need to be extremely honest with yourself. You need to understand what your skills are and respect the timing in each organization. And when the moment is right, you need to go and get the well-deserved promotion, dude. All right, and now I have a question for you. Which path do you think that suits you better right now in your career? Is it an individual contributor or a managerial one? I want you to leave the comments right now here in the comment section. And guys, this is just another episode of the Bullseye ProPath method. I hope you enjoy it. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel, give it a like, and we are going to meet again in the next video. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.